Today I'm going to explain why taking Social Security at 70 can ruin your retirement. Every year I spend hundreds of hours helping my clients maximize their Social Security benefits by creating timing strategies that are tailored to meet their retirement desires. Timing when to claim Social Security is one of the biggest challenges retirees will face. Unfortunately, most of the advice you hear tells you to claim at predefined ages such as 62 or 70, and this leads most retirees to make costly mistakes that prevent them from getting the most out of their benefits in retirement. So today we're going to walk through several common pitfalls retirees make when deciding to take Social Security at 70 and the factors that you should consider before claiming Social Security. So with that being said, we're going to get right into the video. I'm going to explain 3 financial and psychological problems one might encounter when one decides to claim Social Security at age 70 because it appears to be the best option. We're going to do this by reviewing some spreadsheets on the screen to substantiate the claims. Now you're going to want to stay tuned for the back half of this video because after I review the 3 primary problems, I'm going to share exactly how I recommend evaluating and timing Social Security correctly. So the first primary problem I have with claiming Social Security at 70 is what I call front-loaded distribution rate risk. I'm going to show this on the screen in just a moment with a spreadsheet, but the idea here is that deferring Social Security benefits provides a larger benefit payment in the future, but it means you may need to rely more heavily on saved assets or other income sources like working longer in order to survive until then. And these high distribution rates from saved assets for an extended period of time early in your retirement can make you susceptible to substandard market returns or worse, to sequence of returns risk if you have negative market returns. So let's take a look at this on the screen. What I'm pulling up here is a spreadsheet that shows the actual distribution rates for each phase of a hypothetical person. We'll call her Jane Doe for her retirement. Now, to set the framework for Jane Doe really quickly, she wants to retire at 62. She wants to wait to claim Social Security till later in life to get that increased benefit through the deferral. And she wants to know what is the risk in her plan if she were to retire early. Now, we're going to evaluate this, like I said, through the lens of the distribution rate phases of her retirement. Jane Doe will have only one income source if she retires at 62. She has a small pension that's worth something like $30,000 of income per year. It doesn't compound with CPI. It has a separate inflation rate that is much lower than CPI. And she needs to know what is the risk if she were to withdraw from saved assets. As well as that pension, she has about $1 million split between 50% of it is in pre-tax money and 50% of it is in a blend of Roth and post-tax or taxable money. Now, that is all the baseline we're going to need for this, because really what we're going to do is look at the spreadsheet on the screen. And what I have up here is what we call her required portfolio income bands. And the best way to think of this is she's going to have different levels of distribution rate risk at different ages in retirement based on when different types of income sources kick in. And what you can see here is if she claims Social Security at 70, I have highlighted here in the red what I would consider the front-loaded distribution rate risk. These are the years in which she has successive back-to-back years where her distribution rates are higher than most people might consider prudent, and they are all back-to-back in the front end of her retirement. Now you can see that after this red bucket, below that, there is a trade-off, which is her distribution rates go down substantially. They go down from about the 5% range into the 1 to 2% range and get back as high as 2.5% before her end-of-life care years kick in here at 94 and 95. The important thing here to understand is what is the relationship between deferring claiming Social Security and the level of taxation or the level of withdrawals you'll need on your portfolio assets. And basically what you're doing is you're trading risks. You're front-loading risk of your portfolio when you defer Social Security, but you're ensuring the back end of your retirement because you're going to get a larger guaranteed benefit payment for the rest of your life. And if you claim Social Security earlier, and I'm going to show these scenarios side by side in a moment, you actually reduce that front-loaded risk and you spread the risk out further along the back end of retirement. And the question is, how substantial is spreading that risk out along the back end of retirement? Is it enough? Are you adding enough risk to the back end of your retirement that you should defer and delay claiming Social Security, or even defer and delay retirement to time it with your Social Security? Now, what you can see in the second scenario here is if Jane Doe were to claim Social Security at 67, she has 5 years instead of 8 years of 5+% distribution rates, after which the distribution rates go down. If we go to claiming at 65, you can see that she has 3 years of 5+ distribution rates, all again at the front of her retirement. And then if she claims Social Security at 62, she has no years of 5+ distribution rates at all in her plan. And the question is, how do we evaluate this information? So what we're going to do is use a summary table that I built at the bottom of the spreadsheet here, so we can get away from all the noise of looking at each of these plans' 30-year distribution rates and talk about the 4 key pieces of information that help us understand what is actually happening for Jane and how to make her decision. Now, we have at the top here in this graph, or in this summary table, on the left axis, we have different criteria. We have what is her financial plan's probability of success if we use a retirement planning tool or a Monte Carlo simulation. We have how many years does this person have of distribution rates above 5%? Then we have what is the average distribution rate for the entire plan? What is the peak or highest distribution rate of the plan? And we have this broken down by if she claims Social Security at 70, 67, 65, and 62. For right now, I'm going to focus on the bottom 3 of these metrics. And what you can see here is what I just repeated above, is that actually claiming at age 70 does increase the probability of success of Jane's plan. But what it does is it front loads more risk in the form of back-to-back years of high distribution rates. And again, what that means is Jane would be more susceptible to either substandard, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4% market returns as compared to the historic average of 7.5%, or she'd be even more susceptible to sequence of returns risk, which is when there are negative market returns and she's also withdrawing heavily from the portfolio. And those types of things could actually dramatically influence the plan. And so despite the high probability of success at age 70 here, evaluating this, I'm not entirely comfortable. It doesn't make me more comfortable. I'm not uncomfortable with it. It just doesn't make me significantly more comfortable the way the probability of success might do. The other issue here is that she has a rather high peak distribution rate. And you could also say, if you're watching this video and you don't have a generous pension that you can rely on for guaranteed income and you want to retire at 62 or even 65 and decide and understand how to think about claiming Social Security at 70, you would see similar effects. You would see a certain number of years above with a higher average or a higher distribution rate, and you'd see a higher peak distribution rate because you wouldn't have any guaranteed income sources to balance that out. And you can see this relationship troughs down as you move out towards claiming at 62. We go from 8 years to 5 years to 3 years to 0 years of distribution rates above 5%. Now, the trade-off is we have a slightly increasing average distribution rate across the entire plan, and we also see a decreasing peak distribution rate. The peak distribution rate is a good proxy or a good symbol of the maximum danger in the plan. The highest distribution rate is where you have the weakest portion of your plan, and reducing the peak distribution rate is a great way of smoothing out the risk. Now, one trade-off that is really important to look at here is what happens when we claim at 62, if she were to. What happens is she trades off and removes all the front-loaded distribution rate risk, but what she does is she backloads some distribution rate risk. And you can see here, now at age 87 through 93, and really through 95, that is where the highest distribution rates will be required. None of these are particularly dangerous. However, they are above 4%, and that is person to person how to determine whether they'd like to, claim earlier or claim later. The simple summary of looking at a table like this is it helps you to understand where your risk is when you can't see that by simply looking at the probability of success. Now, while Social Security is extremely effective at managing this particular type of risk, distribution rate risk, it's not the only tool available. You could also consider dynamic withdrawal strategies like guardrails or floor and ceiling strategies. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into great detail about withdrawal strategies in this video, but I'm actually going to be releasing a video in the next couple of weeks that explains how to choose the best withdrawal strategy for you. So be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss that video. And now this will lead us to the second problem I have with claiming Social Security at age 70. And this is more of a psychological problem. And this is the risk that many people may delay retirement when they otherwise could responsibly retire earlier. Waiting for that next source of guaranteed income, in this case, Social Security, can cause many of us to work longer than we have to out of fear of tapping too heavily into saved assets. And especially because we follow rules of thumb like the 4% rule or claiming at 70 is always the best idea. And especially because also a lot of financial planning tools will show a higher probability of success for deferring Social Security when it's not always entirely clear how that mitigates their risk. People end up working far longer than they would have needed to otherwise. And so we're going to look back at this table and talk about that really briefly. All of the data from these tables that are now on the screen comes from a retirement plan built for hypothetical client Jane Doe, and it's all using RICP, a tool I've showed many times in many different videos. And so I'm not going to spend tons of time in RICP, but what I want you to know as you're watching this is that all the information in this summary table down here is pulled directly from Jane Doe's financial plan in RICP. And the issue we're talking about here is that a lot of the times psychologically we will have a problem retiring even if we've been a prudent saver and have the ability to retire earlier because we're concerned about seeing a higher and higher probability of success in our financial plan without really understanding where the risk is and whether it's actually risky or not to retire earlier. Now, in this hypothetical scenario for Jane Doe, I'd say it's highly likely, and in fact, I'd encourage her to strongly consider retiring before age 62 or at age 62 at the very least, and strongly considering claiming Social Security earlier. Now, she would be giving up some probability of success from the Monte Carlo standpoint, but I, as a financial planner, am not all that concerned about that because, and we'll talk about this third element in a second here, there's a time value of money and a time value of experiences and satisfaction that we'll talk about. But the idea here is Social Security isn't the only tool in Jane Doe's arsenal that can help improve her Monte Carlo probability of success. And what we see here is that earlier claiming, it doesn't have to be at 62, it could be at 67 or 65, both of which are good options because they reduce her exposure to sequence of returns risk or substandard market returns. Also, they reduce the number of years where she's above 5% distribution rates. They reduce her peak distribution rate, and they don't add significant risk in other areas of her plan when we look phase by phase at what her distribution rates would be. And all of this leads me to say, I'd be confident in giving her a recommendation that she could retire at the time she'd like to. And in fact, I'd highly encourage probably claiming Social Security earlier because there's additional elements that we're going to talk about in just a moment. So the idea here is we shouldn't just, base our retirement timing decision purely off of probability of success. And you can see that Social Security does have a pretty reasonable difference in effect in how it affects probability of success, but that by itself is not enough, in my opinion, to make a qualified decision. And this leads to the third and most important part of the problem I have with claiming Social Security, which I consider a blended financial and psychological risk, and it's something I've not seen talked about in great detail, which is not considering the time value of money. And this is not just the time value of money, but it's also the time value of experiences and satisfaction. The fact of the matter is present day money is worth more than future money. And we know this because that is exactly what inflation causes. It causes present day dollars to become less valuable in the future. It erodes purchasing power, and that is why we invest. But that concept can be extrapolated to present day experiences and satisfaction also being more valuable than future experiences and satisfaction. The key thing to understand here is that experiences are the inverse of money. Money, once you spend it, no longer accrues or accumulates. It doesn't continue to compound. So if you had $1 million and you spend $50,000, now you're only compounding on 950,000, not that full million. So that 50,000's gone, right? Poof, into the ether. But experiences accumulated early do accumulate and build on each other. So for example, if you're 62 and you want to retire so that you can spend time with grandkids or family or doing things you care about, those things do compound because you can never get those years back. You can't get years from 62 to 65 back if you delay retiring till 65. And those experiences and life satisfaction will compound and grow. And the truth is, it's also because life is in God's hand. No one knows how long they'll live. So delaying retiring when you could otherwise responsibly retire is a great way to end up with more money, but with no guarantee that you'll have extra satisfaction as a result of that money. And I'd leave a final point here about this, and then we will look at a financial model about time value of money in just a moment here. But I'd just like to leave you with this thought, which is no one's disappointed to spend time with their family or grandkids at 67, but they're certainly more satisfied if they get to spend more time with the grandkids or family from 62, 63, 4, 5, 6, and 67 onward, right? Okay, so you get the picture. I'm gonna get back in my lane and hit this from the financial side as well. On the screen here, I'm gonna show Social Security claiming break-even scenarios, which are a good way to illustrate time value of money and how early money is better than later money. And I'm going to illustrate that exact concept. So let's jump back to the spreadsheet here. And what we have here are 4 different scenarios where we can compare the break-even point of early claiming versus later claiming of Social Security. The idea here is if Jane could claim Social Security at 62, how old would she have to live? How long would she have to live for it to be worth it for her to claim Social Security later and still recoup all the dollars that she did not get by missing out on, let's say, the 8 years between 62 and 70 of Social Security dollars that she could have claimed. And that's what's in the summary table at the top here. You can see if she were to wait to claim until 65, which is still early claiming, by the way, she would need to live till 77 and 7 months just to break even. If she were to wait to claim till full retirement age, which is kind of the standard, which is age 67, she would need to live till 78 and 8 months. And if she were to defer or delay till 70, she would have to live till 80 and 4 months. And the idea here is that, and if I tab over to one more screen here, you can see in the green here, these green years are the years in which she gets Social Security dollars if she claims, say, at age 65, rather than waiting to claim till 70. These years before age 70 are dollars that she gets that she would not that she has to apply a time value of money factor to understand how truly valuable they are. And these dollars are worth more than future dollars. So $23,000 at 65 is worth more than $23,000 at 70. We know this, again, because of the concept of inflation. The point here is just we rarely think about it, and we rarely think about how that relationship compounds and becomes more exponentially more valuable. So the earlier dollars at 62 are actually significantly more valuable than the same dollars would be at 70. And the same goes for experiences, as I've already said. And that's just a really important thing to understand, because most of the time people might have this psychological problem of deferring retirement or underspending in years before they claim Social Security in order to defend their portfolio, which is a fine strategy. But the point is there are other strategies. And when you combine the information here about Social Security claiming earlier, how long it takes to break even, understanding that you may not live that long, you may, but you may not. And even after that break-even point, all you've done is recoup the dollar for dollar amount. You haven't recouped the time value of those earlier dollars that you gave up. So how should one claim Social Security correctly? Obviously, after seeing all these spreadsheets and everything on the screen, my recommendation is that the process should be completely unique and independently evaluated person to person. It's incorrect to claim Social Security purely based on financial considerations, which is why I spent a large part of this video not exactly showing financial things and talking about the personal, experiential things, life satisfaction and the like. And this is why retirement planning tools and math models can actually be extremely misleading on this particular subject, which is Social Security. The complex interplay of the value of retirement savings, your retirement savings tax location, the contribution of other sources of income, your age of retirement, your physical well-being, your family status, your family health history, all of these play into making the right decision when it comes to claiming Social Security. Now, we're going to go into a brief, far from comprehensive list of the factors that I believe should be considered in order to appropriately claim Social Security. And I'm actually going to start with what I believe to be the simplest one, which is the financial one, the math one. And this is the benefit reduction versus benefit increase if you're claiming early versus delaying claiming. And so I'm going to show these values on the screen right here. And this summary table just shows the relationship between claiming at full retirement age, which is considered the baseline age. So if Jane Doe were to claim Social Security at age 67, she would receive a $3,400 payment per month. If she defers or delays claiming for the 3 years up to age 70, she gets a 24% increased benefit, which results in a $4,216 benefit. If she claims early at age 65, she reduces her benefit by 13%. And if she claims as early as possible, she would see a maximum reduction of up to 30%, resulting in a $2,380 benefit. And these are kind of the guardrails of the Social Security claiming kind of reduction versus increase. But this is actually the simplest element of Social Security claiming. And beyond that, we also have to consider the things I mentioned before, but also break-even points, which I illustrated in this video. We have to consider marital status, how your Social Security claiming decision affects your spouse, and the survivor benefit of your spouse or heirs. We also have to consider dependents who may rely on our personal Social Security claiming decision and how our decision might affect them. We have to consider our expected longevity, our family health history, our own personal health history. We have to consider our own personal ability to work due to otherwise, physical limitations or otherwise. We have to consider the size of and access to our retirement assets. And when I say retirement assets, I mean specifically savings that can be used for income. And then we also have to consider how working while receiving Social Security benefits may affect the payout amount. And this is something called the earnings test, which a whole video could be dedicated to. But going through this list, as you can see here, we have at least 8 truly important and complex matters to consider in order to make the best decision about this valuable retirement asset, which is Social Security. So in conclusion, begin learning about and planning for your retirement at least 5 years prior to your desired retirement target. This is going to give you enough runway to make wise decisions, fill in knowledge gaps, evaluate scenarios, create contingency plans, and ultimately make any required changes to get you or keep you on track for your desired retirement. So that's it for this video. If you'd like to learn more about how we help our clients retire confidently, you can visit our website at www.thepeakfp.com. Thanks for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next video.